I couldn't walk for 4 days. Infidelity story, a true infidelity story. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you watching from and subscribe for more new stories. The evening was like any other, the living room lamp casting a warm glow over the photos on the wall. But as I looked at them, it felt a pang of sadness. My name is Ava, and just a week ago, it thought I had my life together, but now everything feels off balance. It started with a surprise visit from my son. Ethan, I opened the door to find him standing there, his face pale and his eyes troubled. Hey, Mom, he soughed. Softly, can I come in? I stepped aside, feeling a surge of concern. Ethan is 25, and he's always been strong and independent, but now we looked vulnerable. We sat in the kitchen, the fridge humming in the background. I made us some tea, but Ethan just stared at this cup. What's going on, sweetie? I asked, trying to break the silence. Ethan looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mix of emotions. I've been thinking about Dad, he said quietly. The mention of Michael's name was like a punch to the gut. I hadn't heard it spoken aloud in years, and it brought back a flood of memories. I tried to forget what about him. I asked carefully. Ethan hesitated, then said, Do you ever regret staying, Mom, staying with him? For as long as you did. His question caught me off guard. Regret what? Soured, I'd avoided for so long, afraid that admitting it would undo everything I'd worked to hold together. But now faced with Ethan's sincere gaze, it felt compelled to answer honestly. I don't regret giving you a family. I said slowly, but I do regret the years I spent convincing myself that things would get better when they never did. Ethan nodded, his expression pained. I always thought it was my fault, admitted that if I'd been a better son, maybe he would have stayed. No, I said firmly, reaching across the table to grasp his hand. Michael's choices were his own. You were just a child. None of this was ever your fault. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the past settling around us like a heavy blanket. Finally, Ethan broke the quiet. I've been having dreams about him. He said about the day he left my heart. That day was etched in my memory like a scar. Michael's hasty explanation, his refusal to meet my eyes, and the way Ethan had clung to my leg crying as his father walked out the door. What do you dream about? I asked softly. Ethan's eyes dropped and his voice barely rose above a whisper. In my dreams, he's sometimes angry, sometimes just gone. But no matter what, I always feel like it's my fault. It fought back tears, my voice is shaking. Ethan, you were never to blame. Your father's choices were his own, and they had nothing to do with you. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced the living room, the moonlight casting shadows on the floor. My mind replayed our conversation, and I realized I'd been wrong to shield Ethan from the pain of his father's abandonment. The next morning, I decided to talk to Ethan again over break fast. Azed, Ethan, I've been thinking we've been avoiding the truth for too long. It's time we faced what really happened. Ethan looked up, his expression cautious. What you mean? I mean, we need to talk about your father leaving. I said about how it affected us both. Ethan nodded slowly. Okay, where do I start? We spent the day talking, sharing memories and emotions. So it was a difficult but necessary conversation. As the sun set, a sense of unease settled over us. Ethan's gaze lingered on me, and I sensed he was holding something back. Finally, he spoke up, his voice barely audible. Mom, there's something else I need to tell you. My heart skipped a beat. What is it? Ethan looked away, his jaw clenched. One, he said. I fell to VO for leaf, but it was short-lived. Ethan's tone hinted at a more complicated story. Who's it? I asked gently. Ethan hesitated before answering. Her name is Emily, and she cuckoo worker. But there's a problem, she's married. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stared at Ethan, struggling to process his words. Ethan, no, I said firmly. You can't get involved in something like this. You know how much pain it can cause. Ethan's voice to crack as he replied, I know, Mom, but it's not that simply. Emily's unhappy, and I care about her. I shook my head, tears welling up in my eyes. Ethan, you deserve someone who can love you fully, not someone who's already committed to someone else. Ethan's voice rose as Shep protested. I didn't plan for this to happen. Mom, I didn't ask for it, but now that it has us through. Hello there, don't know if I can just walk away. We're good long into the night, our voices echoing through the house. I begged Ethan to consider to think about the consequences, but he was resolute, and I could see that his heart was already entwined, and in the days that followed our relationship became increasingly strained. Webb barely spoke, and when we did, the tension was palpable. I felt like I was losing Ethan, and the thought terrified me. One evening, as I sat alone in the living room feeling overwhelmed, Ethan walked in. He sat down across from me, his faces. Amber, Mom, he said softly. I ended it. A wave of relief washed over me, but it was tempered by the sadness in his eyes. Are you okay? I asked. He shook his head. Not yet, but I will be. That night, we talked for hours, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Ethan was hurting, but he was resilient, and I knew he'd get through this. As I watched him sleep on the couch, his face peaceful for the first time in days, I realized how much he'd grown. He was no longer a boy, he was a man navigating life's complexities. In the weeks that followed, Ethan and I grew closer than ever. We faced our pain together and found a new strength in each other. Our bond was unbreakable. We'll forget through hardship and healing. The scars of the past would always remain, but they were a testament to our resilience. In the end, it wasn't the paint that defined us, it was the love that saw us through. Hello there. Elle, I'm glad you came this far and you enjoyed my story. Just before I drop my pen, I have one question for you. Do you believe love can see us through in most difficult times? Share your thoughts on the comment section and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support means a lot, and I don't take it for granted. Watch out for the next video.